I thought I was dying. Seriously. I was sleeping 8, sometimes 9 hours, and still waking up feeling wrecked, like I hadn't closed my eyes at all. No focus, no energy. Just dragging myself through the day, wondering if my body was broken. Doctors said I was fine. Blood work said I was healthy. But deep down, I knew something was way off, and no one was talking about it. I started spiraling, Googling sleep disorders at 2 a.m., reading Reddit threads and watching doctor videos trying to explain why I felt like garbage after a full night in bed. I cut out caffeine. I stopped eating late. I spent hundreds on blackout curtains, supplements, a new pillow, even a high-end sleep tracker that promised to decode my fatigue. The data said I was sleeping great, but every morning my body told a different story. I'd open my eyes and instantly want to close them again. My limbs felt heavy. My brain fog was unbearable. And no matter how early I went to bed, the exhaustion never let up. I started wondering if this was just my new normal. Maybe I had some undiagnosed illness. Maybe I was just built differently. Maybe I really was broken. The worst part was how everyone around me acted like I was overreacting. "You just stressed. You need to relax." Everyone's tired, but this wasn't normal tired. This was soul-level fatigue, a kind of deep, wired exhaustion that sleep didn't touch. I wasn't functioning. I was just pushing, surviving, pretending to be fine while feeling completely out of sync on the inside. And then one night, after trying everything and getting nowhere, I stopped. I stopped treating sleep like a checklist. I stopped trying to force a solution. And that's when something clicked. What if sleep itself wasn't broken? What if I was destroying the very rhythm that sleep depends on to do its job? That question changed everything. Because when I finally made this one shift, my body responded instantly. And for the first time in years, I actually woke up feeling alive. For months, I kept asking the same thing. How do I sleep better? What app should I use? What food should I avoid? What supplement will finally knock me out? But it turns out, I was asking the wrong question the entire time. The issue wasn't my sleep. It was the way I was living around it. And until I saw that, nothing was ever going to change. I thought sleep was a reward, something you earn by being productive enough to deserve it. So I'd run myself into the ground, collapse at night, and expect my body to magically repair everything while I slept. But sleep doesn't work like that. It's not a switch you flip. It's a rhythm. And if your rhythm is broken, sleep can't do what it's built to do. I was treating sleep like a quick fix for the chaos I refused to deal with during the day. I wanted it to cancel out stress, overstimulation, and nonstop input. But all those things were carrying over into my nights. I'd lie in bed wired, overloaded, and confused why I wasn't waking up rested. The truth was painful, but freeing. I didn't need to sleep more. I needed to stop draining myself in the hours leading up to it. The shift came when I stopped obsessing over sleep and started paying attention to my rhythm. What I did in the evening, what I did in the morning, how I treated transitions, how I told my body it was time to rest, not with effort, but with signals. Once I stopped trying to hack my sleep and started respecting my rhythm, my energy didn't just improve. It came back like it had been waiting for permission to return. One night, I turned everything off. No screens, no noise, no to-do list running in the background of my brain. I didn't plan it. I just sat there in the dark, staring at nothing, completely worn out from trying to fix myself. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Stillness, not exhaustion, not sedation. Just the quiet hum of my body starting to settle. That was the first time I realized how overstimulated I had become. My nights weren't restful. They were chaotic in disguise. I thought I was winding down by scrolling or watching something, but I was actually keeping my brain lit up like it was still midday. No wonder I felt like I had never fully landed in sleep. I was trying to rest while still running on fumes. So I did something different. I treated that 1 hour before bed like something sacred. I didn't fill it. I protected it. I turned the lights down. I sat in silence. I didn't even try to fall asleep. I just let myself arrive there, slowly. And the next morning, my body responded like it had been waiting for that softness all along. Not perfectly, not instantly, but something shifted. That was my turning point. I stopped looking at sleep as a task to complete. I started seeing it as the reward for a rhythm I had to build on purpose. And once I did, I stopped waking up like I had lost a fight. I started waking up like I had finally recovered from one. And that feeling, that return of energy I thought I'd lost for good, was worth everything. For most of my adult life, I treated sleep like a wall. I'd hit it at full speed, expecting everything to shut off the second my head touched the pillow. No preparation, no transition, just mental chaos followed by sudden darkness. But sleep isn't a crash pad, it's a process. And my biggest mistake was expecting deep rest without giving my body any warning that it was time to begin. I thought rest meant stopping. But true rest starts long before you lie down. It's not just the absence of work, it's the presence of calm. My nights were anything but calm. I'd go from emails to screens to mental multitasking, then expect my nervous system to go silent on command. That's not how it works. You can't outrun noise all day and hope for silence at night. It doesn't show up unless you make space for it. So I made space. I set a soft boundary. 1 hour before bed, no inputs. No bright lights, no social media, no tasks that make my brain speed up. Instead, I started dimming the lights, putting on something slow like ambient music, and doing almost nothing. Not because it was productive, but because it was human. And that 1 hour changed everything. My body finally stopped feeling like it was being chased into sleep. The difference was unreal. I didn't knock out. I landed. I wasn't waking up in the middle of the night wired. I was sinking deeper, resting longer, and feeling more clear when the morning came. This wasn't about having a perfect routine. It was about removing what didn't belong in the sacred hour before sleep. And once I stopped crashing into the night, my mornings finally stopped crashing into me. We treat sleep like flipping a switch. 1 second, we're fully alert, overstimulated, multitasking, and the next we expect our minds to go quiet just because the lights are off. But real rest doesn't work like that. Sleep is a descent, not a shutdown. And if you never slow the descent, your body doesn't know how to land. It just crashes. That's why you can sleep all night and still wake up feeling wrecked. I realized I had no wind-down system. I was going from full-speed thinking to complete silence with nothing in between. And my nervous system didn't like that. It fought back with racing thoughts, tense muscles, restless dreams. So I started creating a softer slope into sleep. I lowered lights. I moved slower. I replaced mental input with stillness. I stopped forcing my body to sleep. I began inviting it. This wasn't some perfect bedtime routine. It was more like learning how to exhale again. I'd put on music without lyrics, open a book I had already read, or just sit in the dark and let my thoughts lose their edge. I treated bedtime like a sunset, not a shutdown. Slow, gradual, gentle. I didn't chase sleep anymore. I created the conditions for it to arrive on its own. And it did. The tension I used to carry into bed started leaving before I even touched the mattress. I stopped bracing for another restless night. I started trusting that my body, if given the right cues, would do what it's built to do. Rest is not a task. It's a response. And the more I respected that process, the more my energy stopped disappearing overnight. I used to wake up to the sound of panic. A blaring alarm, a glowing phone, notifications lighting up my brain before I had even taken a breath. That was how I started every day. No wonder I felt exhausted before I even got out of bed. My body wasn't waking up. It was being jolted. And the more I learned, the more I realized I was starting my day completely out of rhythm. What your body needs in the morning isn't a loud noise. It's light. Natural, soft light that hits your eyes and tells your brain, it's time to rise. That's how your circadian rhythm resets. That's how cortisol rises at the right time. That's how melatonin fades. I had spent years trying to force myself awake with alarms and caffeine, when what I really needed was to step into the sunlight. So I started doing that. I made it a rule to see light before seeing a screen. Some days that meant walking outside for 5 minutes. Other days I just opened a window and sat in front of it. It didn't feel like a productivity trick. It felt like a reset. I was no longer rushing into the world. I was arriving in it, fully and gradually. And my body thanked me with clarity I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't about being a morning person. It was about giving my biology what it was built to respond to. Light is the language of wakefulness. And once I stopped using alarms as my only signal, mornings stopped feeling like emergencies. I didn't bounce out of bed smiling, but I wasn't dragging anymore either. I was rising on my own time, and that changed the tone of everything that came after. The first time I woke up and didn't feel like I was dragging 100 pounds of weight behind me, I almost didn't trust it. It wasn't a high or a burst of energy. It was quiet, steady. I opened my eyes and didn't immediately dread the day. I wasn't wired, but I wasn't wiped out either. For the first time in years, I felt like I had actually slept. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big cinematic moment where everything changed. But that subtle shift was massive. I wasn't clenching my jaw. I wasn't racing to the coffee machine just to feel human. My body didn't feel like it had been at war all night. It felt like it had repaired, like it had recovered. And that gave me more than just energy. It gave me relief. The biggest difference was in the way my mornings felt. Not rushed, not reactive, just grounded. I wasn't fighting against the day anymore. I was meeting it with enough strength to stand upright, take a breath, and move forward. That feeling of calm energy, of quiet alertness, it stayed with me longer than any caffeine ever did. And it kept building. One good morning became 2. Then a week. Then a month. I wasn't chasing motivation anymore. I was simply resting better, moving better, waking up without dread. And once you've felt that shift, even once, it's hard to go back to the way things were. Because it proves that your body is not broken. It's just been asking for something different all along. For so long, I blamed myself. I thought I just wasn't trying hard enough. That maybe I wasn't disciplined, or that I just wasn't wired to feel rested like other people. It's easy to believe that when you're constantly tired and no one around you seems to understand. But what I've learned is this. Being exhausted doesn't mean you're lazy. It usually means you're out of rhythm. We live in a world that constantly pulls us away from our natural pace. We stay up under artificial light. We stare at screens when we should be still. We push through fatigue with caffeine, then wonder why our bodies don't recover. It's not a personal failure. It's a system designed to keep you disconnected from yourself. And when you fall into that system long enough, exhaustion starts to feel like your identity. But it's not who you are. It's not how you're meant to live. Your body is incredibly smart. It knows how to rest. It knows how to heal. It's just been fighting against habits, inputs, and noise that were never designed for human health in the first place. And when you begin to realign, even slightly, your energy comes back not as hype, but as stability, as clarity, as peace. So, if you've been waking up tired and wondering what's wrong with you, I want to say this clearly. You are not broken. You're just misaligned, and that can change. You don't have to do everything perfectly. You just have to start giving your body the chance to return to the rhythm it's been trying to follow all along. You don't need a 12-step routine. You don't need to buy another gadget or force yourself into someone else's version of productivity. What helped me wasn't a perfect system. It was something much simpler. I stopped treating rest like something I had to earn. I started treating it like something I was allowed to receive. And that shift alone started giving me my energy back. The fix wasn't fast, but it was powerful. I protected my evenings. I welcomed sleep like a guest, not a task. I let light guide my mornings instead of alarms. I slowed down enough to hear what my body had been whispering for years. And in doing that, I found something I didn't know I had lost. I found the rhythm I was always meant to live in. This isn't about optimizing. It's about remembering. Remembering how to end the day without pressure. How to greet the morning without resistance. How to let rest happen without force. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be gentle with yourself. Gentle enough to stop interrupting the rhythm your body already knows how to follow. So if you're still waking up tired, maybe don't look for something to fix. Look for something to restore. Start small. One light change. One quiet hour. One soft landing before bed. Give your body the chance to come back into rhythm. And I promise it will.